Climate change presents the greatest opportunity that we have to realise our potential, share our passion, and claim our purpose. It's probably not what you were signing up for a talk on climate change, right? But today I want to show you how the climate crisis is catalysing communities to lead, how this existential challenge is demonstrating the immense influence that we have when we come together, how we're bringing the best of our humanity to connect and heal and find solutions. And I want to tell you why the last thing we need at this fundamental point in human existence is another hero to come along and save us. Scottish man of letters, Thomas Carlyle, he wrote of the virtues of hero worship almost 2 centuries ago. He believed that the extraordinary possibility of human achievement was too easily dismissed. And sure, I'm a great fan of the Caped Crusader, whether it's Superman, Xena the Warrior Princess, Wonder Woman, Daenerys Targaryen, complicated, or even Bilbo Baggins. These characters keep me as captivated today as they did way back in the 1980s when I was just a kid, laid out on that scratchy wool carpet in our lounge room, scoffing my 2-minute noodles on my space food sticks, gazing up at the television, waiting to follow my heroes down their treacherous pathways to adventure. I was transported. And the truth is, we are all drawn to this narrative. The hero's journey is the most established storytelling format that we know in our modern world. From that day when Homer sat down to tell the ancient Greeks about Ulysses, until the very moment when J.K. Rowling put that final full stop in that Harry Potter series we love so well. Countless books, TV shows and movies have followed someone who, after struggle, sacrifice and self-doubt, ultimately wins the day. But here we are, in this moment, when towns are struggling years on to recover from fires that burned 20% of our eastern forests, when flooding rivers are breaking banks and breaking records, leaving so many homeless, and lives lost, and livelihoods destroyed. In 2022, in Pakistan, 1/3 of that country was underwater, with more people displaced than the entire population of Australia. Heatwaves and forest fires dominated the summer in North America and in Europe, and hurricanes batter coastlines with increasing ferocity. The word unprecedented has become some kind of wicked cliche of our times. In 2020, at the height of the first wave of the pandemic, I commissioned a research project that found that close to 1/4 of Australians aged 16 to 75 are so worried about climate change that we called the category the alarmed. People told us they felt uncertain, anxious, frustrated, and helpless. Sound familiar? For younger people, research is more troubling. A study in 2021 of young people and children aged from 16 to 25, 10,000 people across 10 countries, including Australia, found that the perceived inaction from our governments contributed to increased levels of climate distress. It's something that psychologists who specialise in the area tell us is a rational response to the state of the world. It's certainly something that I felt during those Black Summer fires. Just seeing the fear in my daughter's eyes as we prepared our home for the worst was enough to send me spiralling. There is so much at stake for our children and for the places that we love that it's no surprise that we look around for heroes to come and save us. We gaze up at folks like Musk, Biden, Attenborough and Gates, with our eyes full of expectation. And perhaps it's hundreds of years of stories that have told us of the hero coming to save the world, of the individual winning the day, that is locked in this kind of idea that we can only get things done if we become one of them. It's overwhelming. We need to close the book on this antiquated idea of solitary, disconnected leadership. Instead of this individualistic heroism, what we need is a new form of leadership, one that is connected, collective, and creative, where people come together to find solutions. People who are flawed, complicated, and unfinished, like every one of us. We need a movement that's leaderful. Marshall Gantz is someone I look up to, but he's not a typical hero, and it's likely that you've never heard of him. He was an organiser at the United Farm Workers Union in the US for more than 2 decades, and these days he's a senior lecturer in leadership, organising and civil society at Harvard University. You won't find lots of posters with inspirational hashtags all over them, but Marshall was instrumental in designing the grassroots organising strategy for the 2008 Obama for President campaign. He's also the founder of the Leading Change Network, a learning community that I'm part of. Marshall taught me that organising is a practice that enables people to use the resources they have to build the power they need to achieve the change they want to see in the world. Organising is a form of leadership that is embedded in communities, not outsourced to the market or to the government to solve for us. And so I was driven by my own crushing anxiety about the state of the world. I call it climate freakout. It's a scientific term. But I made a decision to be more hopeful and more intentional about being hopeful. And so I wanted to discover what it meant to have a leaderful movement. I wanted to find out what was happening on climate change across this country. And I was overwhelmed, in a good way, with what I found. And so I want to introduce you today to 5 examples of exceptional leadership that are happening right now on this land. So back in 2006, Carol Ride, who's a psychologist, she sat around her kitchen table on Wurundjeri country, and with a group of her friends over a cup of tea, they formed Darebin Climate Action Now. And they took on an action that would one day reverberate around the world. In one of the many campaigns they led, they called on the local council to declare a climate emergency. And amazingly, they were the first group in the world to achieve this. These days, 1,900 governing bodies have declared a climate emergency all around the world. And according to the Global Covenant of Mayors, these organisations have made pledges that equate to saving 1.9 gigatons of carbon every year to 2030. And to give you a sense of what 1.9 gigatons look like, I'm terrible with numbers. 1.9 gigatons is about the same amount of pollution that Australia's dirtiest coal-fired power station, Loy Yang A in Victoria, pumps out over 100 years. So it's significant. But it began with a simple idea in a kitchen over a cup of tea by someone just as everyday as you or me. In Cobargo, on Yuin country in New South Wales, as the black summer fires finally calmed, people flowed into the School of Arts Hall for catch-ups that sparked reinvigoration and renewal. Using techniques that are designed by the global movement, The Art of Hosting, Special time and space was preserved in those sessions. And those conversations have led to incredible change in that community. There's a new tool library that's got some seriously high quality kit. The community garden has been reinvigorated, and there's creative arts projects happening all over the district. Community connection has emerged from this crisis and scaled beyond what was previously thought possible. I grew up in Newcastle, and on Darkinjung country, the story for the last decade or so has been greenies against miners and miners against greenies. But there's been a remarkable shift in the last couple of years, and it's because people got around a table and started to build intentional relationships. 13 environmental groups and trade unions have formed the Hunter Jobs Alliance. And what has emerged from that alliance is truly remarkable. They've managed to get commitments from Rio Tinto to transition the Tomago aluminium smelter to renewables. And they've also secured tens of millions of dollars in support for workers who will need that support as the region transitions. It's a change that's coming and coming quickly. And this amazing shift, it happened because people decided to push past that politics, ignore the media pundits, and really listen to each other and lead. On the 4th of January 2020, Penrith in Western Sydney was the hottest place on Earth at 48.9 degrees Celsius. Voices for Power is an alliance of community, ethnic and faith groups that are working to advocate for policies that secure climate and energy justice. In 2022, they managed to secure a policy that will see 35,000 low-income households put solar on their rooftops or replace their inefficient appliances with better climate-friendly options, including more efficient air conditioning. It's a really significant first step because as people are splashing around in summer at Bondi Beach, only 50 kilometres away, average summer temperatures are 10 degrees Celsius hotter. People are trapped inside their homes with the air conditioning on, or worse, they're risking their health because they are too worried about flicking the switch as energy costs escalate. And Bundjalung country on beautiful Lismore. The Koori Mail was one of the first responders in the 2022 flooding disaster, switching instantly from its critical role covering the news to becoming a cornerstone of community connection, support and healing, providing food and clothing and more. And across the northern rivers, where there's been so much loss, people are coming together as resilient Lismore, where they're delicately balancing the task of recovering from those disasters, while also preparing for the next flood season that's looming. And they're pushing governments to do a lot better. These changes and these activities, these incredible initiatives, have been completed by people just as complicated and flawed and unfinished as you or me. Incredible people who have a love for country, a love for their community, and who understand that what's required of us right now are simple acts that have the power to transform us together. And what's more, social science is teaching us that when it comes to social change, the power doesn't rest in the centre where the hero sits, it exists on the periphery of groups. Social scientist Damon Santola's work teaches us that social change happens faster when you've got people in one network who are also in another network, making wide bridges. The power exists on the edges of the network and in the places where the network meets. And what we need now is to cultivate an ecosystem of connected communities that can allow us to collectively become our brightest, best, most creative selves. Carol Sanford is an educator of Mohawk ancestry, and she's an expert in regenerative design and thinking. And she believes that the non-heroic journey is the antidote to heroic psychology. She says that non-heroic undertakings need not be grandiose to make a profound difference. But what is required is for us to see that the work that we're doing, any work that we're doing, can make a profound difference to our society. We can make a profound difference, every single one of us. So I wonder, what role will you play? Thank you.